This is the sad reality about the UK. And to be honest, the fact that the government's trying to make it harder and harder for people to live in vans speaks volumes on the fact that they're trying to control us all. But it doesn't just stop at van life. For example, if you save up and you can finally buy your own plot of land, they make it almost impossible for you to be able to legally live on your own land.
I'm going to show you how cheaply you can live in central London while living in a camper van, because I've been doing this for about a month and I've saved thousands.
I live completely rent-free. I don't pay any council tax. I get free electricity thanks to the solar panels on the top up there. I don't have gas, so I don't have to pay for gas. My water is completely free.
So this is the reality of van life, albeit broken down van life, but my cushions on my back.
So a council want to seize your property if you haven't been living it for a certain length of time. So a council wants to seize homes empty for over 6 months as thousands in central London revealed to be unoccupied. So Westminster Council has said it's spending 140 million on temporary accommodation for homeless families, while at least 11,000 properties in the borough sits completely empty. So it is calling for a law change that will allow local authorities to apply to take control of private sector properties when they have been empty for more than 6 months. So around 34,400, around a quarter of all residential properties in Westminster are not occupied by full-time residents, the council have said. So Westminster Council leader says the town hall's research revealed that 2 homes with owners living in Qatar have not been lived in for 20 years. So 20 years is a very long time, but after all, it is actually their houses. They can actually do what they want, I would have thought. And he added, investment properties in Westminster are nothing new, but we are past crisis point in a world where this council has just agreed to spend 140 million on temporary accommodation to try and contain our housing list. So in other words, they want these properties for temporary accommodation. Never mind if it's yours, they just want it because you aren't living in it. And as far as they're concerned, you don't need it. And they said their officers discovered 2 properties of an owner in Qatar that had been empty for 20 years. And it's difficult to justify in a world where taxpayers are funding people in expensive hotels because there's nowhere in the city to live. Do you think what they want to do is right? Let me know in the comments.
We live in a van in the UK. This is our van. Oh my god, you're right. Why don't we just rent or buy a house? Well, let's start with averages of how much it's going to cost us according to Google. Rent is going to cost you a £1,200 average for a small flat or a small 1-bedroom house. Your gas is going to cost you £160 a month. Electric per month is £60. We all know that's a lie. Standard price of broadband is £40 a month. You've got to pay council tax. According to Google, that's £100 a month. Insurance for your house or flat is £40 a month. When we move out of the van, we're going to need 2 cars to get to and from work and do chores. To insure those 2 cars, we're looking at £200 a month. Plus to tax those 2 cars, you're looking at around £60 a month. For 2 people in the UK, it costs £415 to buy food. Definitely pay more than that for food. For just 2 of us in a van. On top of all of these costs for the place, we are going to still need to pay our phone bills, which at the moment is £200 a month. Average price of water for your property in the UK, you're looking at £40 a month. So for the grand total of £2,515, we could indeed move into a small flat in the UK, like many of our friends and people we know are doing, for mould-filled places that are not fit for living in, and the extortionate prices for gas, electric, water and much more. Add another few £100 to £1,000 to that price to just do the bare minimum, like buy clothes, enjoy your life and not live to work. So while it sounds absolutely amazing, I think we can put up with filling up our shower with a bucket and waiting 45 minutes for it to heat up. Our electric is free, it comes from the sun, and our water is included in the price of campsites or land rent. Oh yeah, I thought that we don't rent or buy a house in the UK.
Let me show you how I've saved 12 grand by living in the back of my van. Hi, my name's Ron. I'm an electrician based in Edinburgh, and I've been living in the back of my van for nearly a year now. And the reason I'm doing this is to save money on rent and bills so that I can save for a deposit for a home of my own. I have 30 grand saved already, but will need at least £50,000 for a place of my own in Edinburgh. Curiously, I'm already a landlord. The tenants aren't in a position to buy the place yet, and I'm not willing to evict them. I've given them 12 months to get in a better position. But in the meantime, rather than give my money to a rival landlord, I've decided instead to live in the back of my van. This is the van, which I converted myself for less than 1,500 quid. It's a basic conversion with just a bed and a desk, a power pack and a portable shower, and an old gas stove. My rent in Edinburgh used to be £1 grand a month, including bills, so living in the van saves me at least that much a month. As I mentioned, I'm an electrician, but actually at the moment I'm a trainee, so still on a trainee wage of about 30k a year. This gives me an after-tax income of 1,700 quid, plus 725 that I get from the tenant. But by living in the van and saving by other ways, I'm only spending about 1,100 a month. This means I could save about 1,500 a month. This would mean I'll be doing van life for at least another year. If you're interested to see how this story turns out, then please like and follow. Thank you again for watching.
I used to move out of central London in order to get more of a bargain. However, towns outside that are close to central London but not in central London are now getting central London prices. This is a new development, newish development in Ealing Broadway, which is West London. It is about 6 minutes on the Elizabeth line to central London, so it's very close. However, the prices are unbelievable. If you look at a one-bedroom flat in this apartment, which is right in the centre of the town, you're looking at £900,000 plus. For a 2-bedroom, it's well over £1 million. And for a 3 or any of those penthouses, you're talking over £2 to £3 million. Now, you could get a house elsewhere, just a few miles from here, a big house for that same price. But people are paying it, and government are allowing these to be built and be bought by international investors. So a lot of these actually sit empty. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, follow for more London.
There's 1 million homes right now in the UK that's empty. That's 1 million opportunities for us as property investors to get hold of them. Everyone keeps telling me that they can't find deals. You're not going to find the best property deals on Rightmove. You're going to find them off market. So go and target the houses that you know in your area that are empty. You can talk to the local council. The local council will support you in getting hold of the owner. Buy it below market value, do it up, sell it, make a profit, and put a house back in to community use. Because we've got 1 million empty homes in the UK, and we've got a massive homelessness crisis. We've got 271,000 people homeless, but 1 million houses sat there empty. So get onto your local council, walk around your area, let's help get all these houses back into use.
You know when a house goes up for sale in your area and then you see it get sold and then nothing happens? There's like 600,000 homes in the UK that are currently vacant. Here's one of them.
Right, this was bought, I reckon, what, 8 months ago, something like that? There's so many people waiting for homes, and people are not doing the renovations on the homes. Why are you not doing this?
It's just sat empty. I walk past that house most days, and I did view it nearly a year ago when it came to the market. It was cash purchase only. It wasn't mortgageable, it didn't have a working kitchen or bathroom. So the person who's purchased this property, or the company that's purchased it, is a cash buyer, and it's just done nothing for like 8 months. I think I saw one person go there, but that's it. It's just sitting empty.
Why would you leave your house like that? Seriously. I can't believe these people leave their yards so mash up. Honestly, would you not invest or sell it or do something? Look at the crustiness of this, ladies and gents. This is how some of these properties are left, and this is a rich area. This is Golders Green. It's mental.
I'm going to show you how cheaply you can live in central London while living in a camper van, because I've been doing this for about a month and I've saved thousands. I've got nothing in, so go to Tesco to pick up some milk and eggs, but when I get there I'm feeling lazy, so just this once get a cheeky meal deal for £3.60. Lunch comes around and I'm feeling pretty hungry, so head back to Tesco and decide to smash out a quick meal deal for £3.60. And then I'm still feeling pretty hungry, so go back to Tesco and get a meal deal for £3.60. Dinner time, and this microwave curry looks quality and is only £3. But when I get back to the van, I remember I don't have a microwave, so I go back to Tesco and get a meal deal for £3.60. I meet my mates for a midweek one at the pub. We chose a cheap one where the pints are only £7, so I do a quick £35 there. Then I go and meet an acquaintance in his black Mercedes, which cost me £80. I stay at the pub for a couple more hours, which cost £28, but one of those beers was actually after midnight, which doesn't count, so make that £21. And there we have it, £181.40 to live in central London for a day, which I think's pretty good going. Just make sure you remember your club card.
How much a week does it cost in the van, please? Let's go and find out. So I do all my shopping at Lidl. And obviously, because I'm buying myself now, it's going to be a lot cheaper than what it is for a couple to live in van life. So I've just bought all this. which cost me £32. The reason being is because I bought a candle. Otherwise, I probably would have cost about 28 quid. Now this will do me a whole week. I live on chicken wraps, a few butties, got me breakfasts. You know, I don't do all snacks and stuff. There's my snacks. Coffees, cups of teas. So yeah, this will do me a whole week. Now the situation with the diesel, if you're travelling around a lot, so you want to go and see like tourist places, mountains, lakes, it's going to cost you more in diesel, obviously. But if you want to just park up and stay by a lake, just throw £20 in your tank and you can park up for the whole week, because you're not driving anywhere, are you? And the only diesel what my van would use was my diesel eater. So £52 a week, van life, easy.
From parking crackdowns to new restrictions, the government says van life isn't a solution, and now they're making it harder to do.
This is the sad reality about the UK. And to be honest, the fact that the government's trying to make it harder and harder for people to live in vans speaks volumes on the fact that they're trying to control us all. But it doesn't just stop at van life. For example, if you save up and you can finally buy your own plot of land, they make it almost impossible for you to be able to legally live on your own land. It doesn't matter if you live on a caravan on that land, or even if you live in a shed. You have to jump through so many hoops just to be allowed to live on a property that you've bought. It's sad, really, because in England you don't own anything. It's like buying a car and then having to ask the dealer if you're allowed to put certain dust caps on it. In a lot of the areas in the countryside in England, like where I live, you've got to ask the council's permission to put certain windows in. But then the same council will approve plans for a massive McDonald's just down the road. A McDonald's that looks completely different to every other building in a 20-mile radius. I personally just can't see the benefit of saving for ages to get a massive deposit to buy a house, to then really not have much more rights over that house than if you were renting, because the government acts as your landlord, really, even when you do buy a house. And then the mortgage company own the majority of the house until you pay it all off anyway. So unless you're going to pay a massively high mortgage and get it finished quickly, by the time you pay it all off, you're either half dead or dead. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent now, but let us be your guinea pigs to see if you could also live this life, to see if you could live your own life rather than just living your life for the government or for the bank.
Right, this questionnaire. Everyone at the minute is really interested in stuff about money and how much it costs and how cheaper it is and all this sort of stuff. So £600 a month, right? That's about the rent that we were paying in our last apartment. On top of that, we had about £200 of utility bills, £100 of council tax. It was probably all in all £1,000 just for the place that we were living in. In a van, if we talk about for the van, the only things that we are paying for are insurance for the van, but we paid it off in one go. It was £700, we paid that for the year. The things we pay for month for the van are road tax, which is £24, fuel, but that's as much as you need, so you can be in control of that. That varies every month. Sometimes it's very little, sometimes it's a bit more. Gas, the gas lasts us about 3 to 4 months and costs about £12 to fill up. The Wi-Fi is £20 a month. Breakdown cover is also £9, that only covers us for the UK. Right, they're pretty much all the things in the van that cost us per month. As you can see, it's a lot less than the £1,000 it was costing us before.
Any other time, by 2030, the entire housing market is going to be upended. We won't be able to afford any housing, and the reason being is that we're seeing a flood of capital from foreign investors buying up what we call SFR, single family rent. Angela Rayner has an ambition to build 1.5 million homes. She's not going to achieve that. And if any homes that she does build will be through the assistance of foreign private equity. And that's going to come with all sorts of conditions, my friend. That housing is not going to be for you. It's not going to be for me. It's not going to be for residents of the UK. That housing is going to be gobbled up by foreign pension funds, foreign private equity. There's going to be a housing crisis beyond what we've ever seen before.
Southwark Council has over 17,000 people on the housing waiting list, but at the same time, there's almost 1,500 empty council homes. Why is this, and what's the solution?
The UK could fix its housing crisis, but it chooses not to, because many MPs are landlords with a vested interest in keeping prices high.
We live in a country where luxury flats are popping up everywhere. But when it comes to actual affordable homes for working people, suddenly it's complicated. It's too expensive. It's too bureaucratic. It's just too hard. But here's the truth. We could actually fix the housing crisis tomorrow if the government wanted. Land exists. We can get the money, the builders. So why don't they do it? The truth is the UK doesn't have a housing crisis. It has a housing business, and business is booming for the landlords, developers, MPs and the buy-to-let company. You can check the facts. Over 600,000 properties sit empty in the UK. Nearly 2 million council houses have been sold off since the 1980s, and less than a quarter of those were replaced. Take 2022. Just 7,500 new social homes were built. Yet, in 1953, with a war-ravaged economy, we managed to build 147,000. So you can't tell me it's not possible. It's just not profitable. Now, why don't majority of MPs say something about this? Well, 40% of MPs are landlords. That's right, 40% of MPs are landlords. They literally profit from housing scarcity. On top of that, they're selling off council estates for next to nothing, getting back less council homes that they're giving away, and then the remaining 75% of them goes straight to the banks and buy-to-let companies, and still act shocked when people can't afford rent. At the end of the day, they don't want affordable homes. They want people trapped, paying rent, tied to debt, too stressed to fight. And as long as the rich run this country, that won't ever change.
Labour's building new homes, and for many people that would be welcome. But we're in Birmingham today, where there are about 24,000 homeless people. And despite that, there are also 9,000 empty private sector homes. So what's really going on? You see, about half of England is owned by just 25,000 landowners, the 1%. We're talking about oligarchs, bankers, private corporations too. So despite the fact that there are so many homeless people and there are so many unoccupied homes, people still can't get access. If we build more, but the ownership structure is still the same, then how do we fix the real problem that affects people? In 2019, 25 homeless people died in Birmingham, part of a wider trend of 778 homeless people who died UK-wide. How do we solve and arrest this problem? What do you think?
So there are 265,000 long-term empty homes in the UK, and that is the same size as the city of Hull. Yeah, a whole Hull has been empty for between 6 months and 2 years. So Capital Letters, alongside the Charity Crisis, are hosting an MPs round table today. The MPs and peers are going to have information from experts in housing like Capital Letters and have a chance to discuss the problem, because in London there are about 87,000 empty homes and there are 65,000 households experiencing homelessness and living in temporary accommodation. So if we get the right cross-department approach, we could find homes for those families and save London boroughs, get this, £114 million a month. So that'd be good.
This number is just mind-boggling. Apparently up to 53% of homes in the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea and Westminster are abandoned. They are deserted. Apparently since the war in Ukraine started, all the oligarchs that were looking for somewhere to park their ill-gotten cash just scarpered, just up sticks and left, which kind of suggests that these exclusive prime location, hyper expensive boroughs were basically half owned by Russian oligarchs. This is disgraceful. The city of Westminster and the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea have a lot to answer for here. This number, 53%, this is more than half. More than half of the homes are empty. This is just, I don't know what to say, how this was allowed to happen at the scale it happened at. And these people knew what was going on all along. Councils know who their residents are. There was no way that the council at Kensington and Chelsea or Westminster were unaware of who owned those homes. They were in full possession of the facts. They just looked the other way because, you know, money.
Look at these abandoned tower blocks that me and Lee found. We come out to come and look at something. We found these massive abandoned tower blocks. There's 3 of them. I don't even know how long they've been abandoned for. They're pretty secured. Pretty secured, I'll tell you that much for free. But there's 4 of them. There's that one over the road with the phone mast on it as well. But they've been shut for donkeys. You don't appreciate how high a tower block is until you stood at the ground floor. I've read on the internet that they're supposed to be knocking them down and turning the place into a massive housing estate with new houses, but I do not know. Look at all the junk there that they've dumped. Jesus, that's bad. This is terrible. You know, we moan that we ain't got enough houses, but they can just leave the flats like this derelict. Rehouse them, reclad them, turn them into council houses. Look at all the junk. Mental, innit? There's 4 of them. There's this one over here, and then the 3 over there that you seen earlier. Massive, aren't they? It is a shame. How much would it cost to put them back right and just use them, home people? But I've read that it's going to take over 2 years for them to get the planning permission to
refurb.
Not to refurb them, to knock them down and build houses. Should we have a look in the bin chute? Should we find somebody in here? Dun 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 dun. Mate, there's electric on in here, you know.
What?
The lights on.
Electric's on the
In the bin chute.
Electric's on the screen, look.
Yeah, the electric's on it. They're mental. Look how high that is up there. It's a shame. I do like the tower blocks.
Birmingham over there in the distance.
Pretty cool. You can see all the way into Birmingham city centre from over here. It's high up anyway, let alone putting tower blocks on the place. How much does it cost to live inside this van that I converted into a camper van for a full year? The normal person paying £750 a month rent equals out to £9,000 a year. Am I going to get anywhere close near that? Let's have a look. So fuel, I get 500 miles to £100. I've done 30,000 miles. That works out at £6,000 in fuel. So that's already a huge dent towards it. Insurance, 1,200 quid. Shout out Sterling Insurance. Tax, 300 quid. Food, averaged out about £60 per week, 52 weeks, £3,120. Maintenance was the big one, because I've had a fair few bits go iffy with this one. 30,000 miles I've done, so that equals out to 3 oil changes, 140 quid each, 420. I had an EGR valve done, that was £600. Timing belt, £500. Upgrades, I've done a few little upgrades to this with an awning rail on the side, some side steps. I've done a few bits and bobs. That works out at £2,000. Internet, £15 for 52 weeks, that works out at £780. Starlink, I've only had that for 3 months at £96 a month, works out at £280. Campsites, I've stayed on 6 campsites this year, that totaled out to £100. Complete total, £15,308 to basically have a full year's camper van holiday. I'm happy with that. I live completely rent-free. I don't pay any council tax. I get free electricity thanks to the solar panels on the top up there. I don't have gas, so I don't have to pay for gas. My water is completely free. Now, I'm not saying this to gloat or do anything like that. I mean, I've paid my dues. I was working since the age of 11, working hard as well. When I was old enough to get a bus driving licence, I've spent the next 17 years driving buses, coaches, all over the world. I then moved over onto truck driving. This whole time I was living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, constantly working every minute I could possibly work just to prove myself as a good employee. So I don't really need to impress absolutely anybody. Might not be your lifestyle, but for me, traveling and exploring is extremely passionate about it. Is it? I know what I meant there. So currently I'm in the Lake District. I've got a gorgeous view outside. I'm doing my hobby as my career thanks to such an amazing bunch of followers that I've got on.
Good morning from Sample Tester Product. So today is on the line of benefits and those on benefits and awaiting housing, especially in Lambeth. So did you know that hundreds of council properties are empty? And that there's 36,000 people on the local waiting list. But the thing about this is that most of these properties have been repaired and have been sitting there for months, and they're not budging, and they're not giving them away. Lambeth is becoming like magpie hoarders. So, why is Lambeth hoarding all the flats and houses? Hundreds of council property homes have been empty in Lambeth for more than 6 months. This is a South London borough which I live in. I myself experienced awaiting properties in Lambeth. I had to actually fight them and fight them by writing to my MP and writing to the Civil Bureau because they actually were taking the mick. I myself lived in a 1-bedroom flat with 6 occupants and was told to convert my living room. In fact, it takes an average 6.5 years to secure a council property in the Lambeth Borough. Out to 377 properties being repaired or ready to let out, only 45 flats are presently under offer. What happened to the other 300 and odd flats? In fact, a Green member for Gypsy Hill said it was unacceptable for so many council properties to be empty in the borough when 3,000 families across Lambeth were in temporary accommodation and in urgent need of a permanent home. Now, in any council, you expect some sort of voids, and that between moving out and moving in, there are some things to be done, i.e. repairs on the property. Most of the repairs you see being done very fast, but you don't see the tenants being moved as fast. Remembering that with these 3,000 families in a temporary accommodation, there's at least 4,000 children, and at least out of those who have poor health. And much of this is because of overcrowding. Lambeth Council has responded by saying that once a resident has left a property, they will not rent it until the property is in a rentable or lettable condition.
There are 33,000 council houses which are empty, and this has obviously sparked some major concerns. Sky News revealed that over 6,000 publicly owned homes have been empty for over a year. Several residences have been sealed off in both Lambeth, South London and Southwark. The councils have said that the build cost is just too much to redevelop it, so it is set to be demolished instead. According to Sky News, apparently instead of repairing houses that the councils already own, they are paying millions each year to private landlords to house families in an emergency temporary accommodation, including bed and breakfasts. According to latest figures published by Sky News, it shows that 145,800 children in England are homeless and living in temporary accommodation.
Okay, so here's a quick rundown of how much allowances cost. Van itself was £6,520, the worktop £120, shiplapping £260, water tank with pump £210, can of gas bottle was £40, 2 water bottles were £36, a water heater and extension was £447, our fridge was £570, which is also a freezer as well. Our tap was £135, our sink was £175, and our cooker was £120. The boxes with these clothes were £36. The wood was £335, that also paid for my big drawer. Actifry Genius Extra Large 2-in-1 was £250, our microwave was £139, our flooring was £85, and our solar panel was £520, bringing a grand total of £10,000.
Hi, I'm Shannon and I'm currently living in my little micro camper. Here's what a typical day in my life looks like. So this morning it was too windy to cook outside, the stove would have just blown out and I wouldn't have got anywhere, so I had to make breakfast and coffee inside. But it was nice to kind of chill, get my day started, and once it finally started to warm up outside, I went for a little walk and I wanted to find a little beach area. I was hoping to go for a swim, but as you can see it was really choppy and wavy, so didn't fancy a swim in that, but I did just chill on the beach for a little bit, which was nice. Then I headed to a cafe and did some work for a few hours, and then I went to find a nice spot for lunch, and it wasn't as windy anymore, so I was able to sit outside and enjoy the sun, which was obviously really nice. Anyway, then it was time to head for a swim. I'd been wanting to swim all day, so I managed to find a quieter part of the sea and I went for a little dip. the water here was absolutely freezing. I don't know why it's so much colder here than anywhere else, but anyway. After my little swim, I went to watch the sunset at the lighthouse, and it was pretty cool here. The sunset over the water, which was really nice. But then I went to find my spot to stay for the night, and that was my day. Thanks for following along.
So this is the reality of van life, albeit broken down van life, but my cushions on my back, sat here, enjoying my evening, Chinese chicken curry, watching a few TikToks. Yeah, lovely.
So you know when a house goes up for sale in your area and then you see it get sold and then nothing happens? There's like 600,000 homes in the UK that are currently vacant. Here's one of them.
That housing is not going to be for you. It's not going to be for me. It's not going to be for residents of the UK. That housing is going to be gobbled up by foreign pension funds, foreign private equity. There's going to be a housing crisis beyond what we've ever seen before.
Did you know that hundreds of council properties are empty and that there's 36,000 people on the local waiting list? But the thing about this is that most of these properties have been repaired and have been sitting there for months.
So there are 265,000 long-term empty homes in the UK, and that is the same size as the city of Hull. Yeah, a whole Hull has been empty for between 6 months and 2 years.